Today's guest grew up around gangs, violence, and fighting. After refusing to follow the crowd, he says he was jumped by over 20 people at school. We'll get into it after I hit this music. Joining me this week is Madison Phillips. Madison, thank you so much for coming on today.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yeah, so tell me what it was like growing up for you.
Man, growing up, it was kind of rough. I had a tough childhood, kind of because at a young age, my mom and dad went to prison. One of them was doing drugs, and the other one was selling drugs. From their decisions, they end up going into jail, and you know what happens to that when most of the time when people have children, the children end up going to foster care system. Throughout that time, right there, it just ultimately took me to the environment that I had to go to that was pretty rough.
Yeah, how old were you at this time?
When my parents went to prison, I was about 6 or 7, somewhere around that age.
Wow, very young. So, where'd you go then after your parents went to prison? Did you go to foster care? Did you go to grandparents, family? Where did you go?
Yeah, it was an interesting point at that time. First off, I went to my aunt's side of the family, on my dad's side of the family, when I first got taken away. There was some negative things, some very bad things that was going on during that time. And they ultimately took me and my brother out of that foster care home, or I
Okay.
guess my aunt's home, and put us in a other foster care.
Okay. And what was that environment like growing up in that new foster care?
To be very honest with you, being in foster care, period, it was rough. It was definitely rough. I probably went to a total of probably like 6, maybe 7 foster parents, switching in between that time. And it was rough. Some was better than others, but all of them had their downfalls. It was pretty
Yeah.
rough
So, if you don't mind me asking, why did you have to switch so many times?
because it was kind of, when you have reports and stuff, when things are going on in the foster care system and you're reporting these things back to the social worker. When things are bad, you get taken out of a home and they try to place you into another home that's better than the last one. But it's kind of hard to know who's good people and who's not because everybody's going to put their mask on.
Yeah. So, was it more that foster parents weren't treating you well enough?
Exactly. It was the foster parents that was being pretty. Someone was being violent. Someone was being very toxic. Someone was. It was just rough. So yeah, it was definitely the foster parents.
How was handling school at such a young age at that time, bouncing around between these foster homes?
You just continuing to go to foster home. And as you go to foster home, different environments, different schools. So you're going into all these different places, different environments, and you're having to try to adapt to each place that it is. And you got to remember going into to these different foster homes after your parents going to prison and all these different things that was going on during that time. Going into school, that's the least of your worries. You don't really care about school as much at that time. So it was pretty rough as well, but you're in different environments during that time.
When you got placed in these different environments and going to these newer schools, was it easier for you to find groups of friends to connect with right away?
Absolutely not. I didn't stay around long enough. I didn't have enough time to get to meet people, and as I did meet people, I was gone before you even knew it. So some of these people that it was pretty much just knowing their name.
Also, how long would you stay for in one foster care? Was it like 3 months, 6 months? What was like your time frame?
Yeah, a time frame. Some of them may have been a time frame of a few weeks. Some of them may
Wow.
be a time frame of maybe 4 or 5 months. I was in the foster care system for almost 2 years or so.
And as I mentioned before in the opening of this podcast, you got jumped at one point by 20 some people in Phi Ed. What led up to that moment?
Yeah, what ended up leading into that moment is, my mom ended up getting out of prison after a while. She did what the normal things she would do that when you want your children back. You work with the foster care system. They want you going through counseling, drug anonymous, the AA meetings, all those different things to prove that you are a fit parent to be able to get your children back. And she did that. We end up going back to my mom, and during that time, I moved from a place that I was being bounced around a whole lot to different foster homes to now I'm moving to this place called Birmingham, Alabama. And anybody to know anything about Birmingham, Alabama, definitely during that time, it was a rough environment. A lot of drugs, violence, gangs, all those different things. So for me to be able to go back to my mom and I'm in a new environment, and now at this time, I'm starting to go into the go into these schools. And these schools is no different than the streets when really when you really think about it. So when you really think about those type things of going into these schools, you only thing it is the people that's out there on the streets, they're raising these kids that's in the school system. So you still got the same drugs, you still got the same violence, you still got the same gangs. Nothing different except it's young children trying to act like their parents or their figures that's around. So me being into this school to these schools, I'm going to school and there's several different times before I even get to getting jumped by the 20 different plus people at that time. I was in school constantly having to fight because it was one of those things that when I showed up at school, they wanted me to partake in the drugs or they wanted me to join a gang or they wanted me to do something. And when I disagreed with what they wanted me to do, I had a choice either to be bullied or for me to fight. And I made the decision that I'd rather fight. So when I'm getting, so I'm in it. So from any time that you're in these schools and you start to fight, you're going to get suspended for it. So I'm getting suspended. Mom come up to the school. And most of the time I'm right back in the school. I don't get in trouble because I'm not starting these fights. I'm not the person that's doing these fights. But a lot of times, even more than those, I'm being suspended. I'm getting expelled. I'm doing all these type things. So then I go from one school to another, to another, to another. The only difference between those is I'm just changing the different schools and the different addresses that I'm at. But at the same time, it's the same thing going on over and over and over. And then I get to this school that I believe I was in the fifth, sixth grade. I think I was in the sixth grade during that time and the same things is happening. I've been in several different fights already. I done been suspended several different times for fighting. This time, this kid tries to bully me. He comes up. We are outside in recess, and this kid decides he wants to come up and he want to bully me in front of people. So me being me, I got used to fighting because that's my only mechanism that I can use to survive in the environment that I was in. So we're outside. He wanted to try basically what they call punking. He tried to punk me in front of everybody. So we got to fighting. We get to fighting at that time. One person came out of nowhere, tried to hit me. So now I'm fighting with two people. Then another person came. So now I'm fighting with three people. Before you know, it's a whole group of people coming to fight me. I'm on the ground. I'm balled up, trying to because you can't fight 20 people.
No.
So I'm balled up on the ground trying to figure my way out. And the only reason I was able to get up there because my brother he told me a story, and I always thought it was funny after the fact, not during the fact. But he was out in the car because this was towards the end of the day, recess. We outside and we're inside this gate. And my brother, he's 3 years older than me. He was driving the car to come pick me up from school, but he had to wait outside for a little while. And he told me the story of when he seen it because he said he seen this person fighting with the rest of these kids, and he was like, "Whoa, somebody's getting it." And then he seen these big old group come over there fighting this one person. And he was like, "Whoa, somebody getting their butt whooped." And he was like, "Oh, man, man." And he was looking and all this stuff. He's like, "Wait, that's Madison." And he jumped out of the car to come over there to scare the rest of the kids away from me because when I got up and took off running, all of them came to follow. And the only thing that stopped them from running after me was my big brother coming through the gate, and he basically flexed on them, telling them, "No, you ain't gonna touch him." And they was too afraid to continue to fight. That's what stopped it. Because
Wow, how
even the teachers that was outside didn't even stop it.
really? Okay, so a lot to unpack here. First, how old were you when this happened?
I would say during that time I had to be 13, 12 or 13, somewhere around that age.
Okay, and how old was your bigger brother?
At that time, he had to be 16, around 16,
Okay.
17, somewhere around that age, yeah.
So a few years older, and they were actually all so he was able to scare off 20 kids?
Yeah, because he always had facial hair. So he looked
Okay.
like a grown
Grown
man,
adult.
and
Yeah.
he was really built. The way that his body was structured, and at that time, he snatched off his shirt because he was preparing if he had to fight all those kids too. So when he snatched off his shirt, he was pretty fit, and I guess when they seen him and he looks like an adult, that wasn't gonna be the approach that they wanted to take.
Yeah. So and you said there's teachers around. Did did they see what started the whole thing? That did they see the first kid come up to you trying to punk you, trying to disrespect you?
Honestly, I'm not sure if they seen it, I'm pretty sure well, I don't know. If they would've seen it, maybe they would've stepped in, I don't know,
Okay.
because that environment, they don't really care. They didn't really care, it was more of a paycheck for them. So, do I know that they seen all those kids fighting with me? Absolutely, I know that they did.
How long did this fight last? If you can remember that part.
But when you really look at it, um, our fight lasted for at least that fight had to last at least, I'd say about 4 or 5 minutes.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
long
all this
time.
stuff during that during that time, it seemed like it was a lot longer, but
Yeah.
but
So,
yeah,
going back to the kid who started the fight, he wanted to disrespect you, and I take it you known this kid for a while?
absolutely not. I did not know him
Really?
for a while. Yeah,
So he just so do you know why he chose you? Like, why is it was it because
because 'cause I'm the new kid. I'm the new kid.
you're the
Anytime
new
there was a
kid?
new kid, we gotta test you, see who you are, check and see how soft you are.
Okay. So that's why he came up to you, you're the new kid. Okay. So how new were you at the school at that time?
At that time, I would say I was probably at that school maybe about a month or so.
Okay. So you're sort of new. Um,
Yeah, I'm sorta
you
new, but, you gotta think, when you come into a school young like that, you're really going school to school, you're not really looking to make a whole lot of friends,
yeah.
the pattern is probably gonna persist because you already got in a few fights already. You try to keep your head down, stay away from people because you just don't wanna continue that same pattern, so, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that they're trying to get you to do drugs and other type of stuff. Was this like the same group of kids that are trying to test you that way if you would do certain things with them?
So in the environment that I was in Birmingham, it was more like they're trying to see which one of those things, depending on what they want you to do, are you willing to do. In that fact, it was more of a testing type thing. So when new kids come to the school, we basically their thought mindset was let's see let's see how he is. Can we punk him? Is he scary? Will he back down? Will he get up and fight? Because that is how they test other children. That's how they test people to see if I want you in my gang, if I want to hang out with you, if I want to be you in my circle, because we want to see basically how you get down, is what they
Okay.
would think.
Okay. And then what happened to you after the fight? What how did the environment change for you?
Yes and no. I gained a lot of respect. I gained a lot of respect from that because I was fighting a lot of people before all those people came, and I was handling myself pretty well. So, and if in a sense, yes, it did get a lot better for me during that time. Did it stop the fighting? Did it stop other people from trying me? Because now it's not just will he do it. Now it's let's see. Oh, he think he's bad. He think he can do this. He thinks he can do that. So now well, let me try him. I bet he can't beat me. And that's the new process of what it came.
Okay. And what did the school do to try to prevent this type of stuff from happening?
Nothing, nothing. And that's just that environment, and that's what I've seen that it's a lot of environments that you go to that is very difficult for even the school system to even handle things like that because before you know it, if you get to suspending people or expelling people, half of the school is going to be gone because that's the
Yeah.
environment that they're in. And when it comes down for money wise, not as an adult, you know these things. When it comes down to money and the attendance and all these type things, you're not going to get rid of all those kids.
No. And what year did this take place?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know exactly what year it was.
Okay, what year did you graduate high school?
The year I graduated high school was 2014.
Okay, so we're talking about, a little over 10 years. So,
Yeah,
okay. So, reality schools haven't really changed the past 10, 15 years because I kind of hear the same stories today. Now I'm not hearing like gang fights, but I'm hearing about schools. They're not going to punish these kids because, like you said, if they did all of that, they wouldn't have any kids going to school. It's just
yeah, I
crazy.
agree with you.
Yeah. Um, Going back a little bit further, when you're getting when you're younger, getting to other fights, going through all these suspensions, what was going through your mind? Like, were you feeling like you were being suspended unfairly because you weren't the one starting the fights? Is the other kids fighting with you?
Absolutely, I felt like I was treated unfairly fairly about the situation. A lot of times I felt like that, but at the same time, when you really go back and think about it, there was a lot of times that I didn't get suspended over it because my mom went there and she fought for me. Like she didn't physically fight, but she would go up there and
Yeah.
raise her voice and talk to the principal and explain everything. And the principal would say, "Okay, he's fine," but it didn't always result in just suspension. Sometimes it resulted in school suspension. Sometimes it resulted in after school, suspended where you have to stay after school. Sometimes it I didn't get anything, and because they could prove it, they could see it on the cameras. But if it's all right with you, Tim, I would like to go back to that last statement that you made not too long ago,
Yeah, go
which
for it.
is basically the school systems are the same as they used to be. And yes, I will say a lot of them are the same, but at the same time, there's a lot that's really not. What I've come to figure out as I've gotten older is it's not just about the school system um, as a whole. It's about the environments. You will start to learn because I've been in different environments throughout that time that you will be able to see that some schools was perfectly fine. You didn't have to deal with some of the same problems that you dealt with in other schools. So it was the environments, the type of educators, the superintendents, the teachers, and some cared and some didn't. So that's what I was what put right there. Instead of saying as a whole, the school systems or like that, I would say for the most part, depending on the environments that you was in, it's like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you there. So I guess what I was trying to get at, like in my area, we I know our schools, they don't have like a one set policy. Like, it's depends on what happened. They'll decide if they're gonna react to it or not, or if a kid gets hurt due to bullying, the punishment name may not be the same for every kid. It's gonna kind of vary. So some kids won't get punished for attacking another kid. Some kids will. So that's what I was trying to get at. It's like, there's really for me, for what I've been seeing or hearing from other people, it hasn't really changed too much. But you are right. It's also it's also on the leadership too. The leadership creates the environment as well too. If they need to enforce
I
the
strongly
rules,
agree.
they need
Absolutely.
to enforce the rules as well. So after I know we're kind of bouncing forward and backward. I just wanted to catch up on those suspensions, what's going through your head. But
Okay.
catching back up to the larger fight in Phi Ed, was that kind of the breaking point for your mom saying, okay, we're gonna move you to a different school?
Absolutely, that was the breaking point for my mom. She always told me that if I stayed in that environment, it's only gonna be 2 places for me, and I'm not gonna say it on here, but basically, either I wouldn't be alive or I'll be going to or I'll be going to jail. Those would be the 2 places basically that she said I would end up if I didn't get out of that environment. So she decided that it was time for me to leave.
Okay. Did she talk to the school after that at all to figure out? what's gonna happen to the kid who started the fight with you?
Yeah, she spoke with him, but it goes back to the same fact. When you got 20 plus kids fighting someone, it can be viewed as a few different ways. One of it can be viewed as, okay, if it's 20 people coming together to fight one person, maybe that one person started it. Or it can be viewed as, we're not getting rid of 20 plus kids because of one kid got in a fight. It's just not going to happen.
So, did anybody get punished for that fight?
No, nobody did, because nobody, even the teachers didn't talk about it. If the teacher, the PE teacher, if they would have talked about it, they would have had to say either they wasn't watching us or they watched it, and why didn't they do anything about it? So therefore, that one slid under the rug.
Okay, so did you get tell your side of the story to the teachers or whoever was in charge about what happened?
Yeah, we ended up going to the principal, and my mom talked about it, and I told them, and they basically says nothing they can do about it.
So, your word didn't matter at that time.
Not at all.
Okay, that's a shame. It's so unfair, but like you said, if you're looking at their point of view, can they lose 20 kids? But maybe they need to. Maybe maybe sometimes those parents need to deal with their own kids as well. Um, how did your life change after your mom moved you to a different school?
Man, let me tell you, from being in that environment, I moved away about 45 minutes away to this town called Walker County. And it, for me to say everything that's changed immediately, I would be lying. But for me to say that when I moved away from that environment to Walker County, it was a lot of Caucasians where I moved to, and I was less than a handful of African Americans that was inside of the school, period. I was the only kid that was in that grade when I ended up moving. So for me to say everything, because your mind still has the fight or flight mode. You still have all the different things that you have to go through during this time. So for that to for me to move, did I deal with a few things? Yeah, I dealt with a few things here and there. But when I moved and I started to see that teachers started to care about me, I started to see that I start to make friends. I start to be in an environment longer than any other environment that I've ever been in, because I've spent years jumping to school to school to school to school to school to school and repeating that pattern over and over and over again. And then finally, it's like a now I have fresh air. Now I'm not having to fight as much. Now I'm not getting suspended as much. Now I'm around people that actually seem like they care about me a little bit. So it's like the thought process is totally different. My life started to be totally different, and that's what started the transformation in my life.
Wow. And you just said the teacher started to care. That made the environment better.
Absolutely.
It
The teachers
it
started to
seems
care.
it seems like a simple thing to do for people. It can have such a huge impact. What have you learned from this experience, and how has it shaped your life today?
What I've learned from this experience was your environment will set you apart from your future. And depending on where you are and what you do with what you're doing in your environment, it will set you apart from everyone else. And from that one move, from my mom making a decision, which means to cut off any other option, and for her to make that one decision to move me in a different environment, to put me around different people who was going to enforce the rules and care about other people, that was everything. That right there started me off on the journey of wanting to be something, be someone, and to know that I was deserving to be someone. That right there put me on the path to know that I was capable of being anything that I wanted to be. I just needed to be around the people that's gonna push me and influence me and teach me and even show a little bit of love in the environment that I was in. Ultimately, I got all of those things. And that right there shaped me from other things being involved into that, into who I am today and what it made me in today is to be able I was a district executive for scouting. I've written a book. I've graduated college. I've gotten 2 degrees. I have, I'm a founder of a nonprofit. I've done so many different things, but I don't list those things to say I'm better than anyone else or any of those type things. I list those things to say that your foundation is everything. And my foundation of being moved to a different environment to that school was the foundation to build the rest of my life.
Madison, I love your story, and I love that it has a positive outcome. And because of what you experienced, look where you are today. You know, very successful as a person. If people want to follow you, get a hold of you, do you have social media, or how can they do that?
Yeah, for anyone that wants to follow me, you can follow me at Madison Phillips Official on Instagram. And that's the best way to do it. And the reason I share that one is because I know that other people have circumstances, whether it's past, current, or it may be future concerns. If you want to talk, get a hold to me. Let's have a conversation. And a lot of people get on these podcasts and they want to plug themselves into a business or something like that. But me personally, I care too much for that. If it's something that I can help someone on, let's talk about it.
I love that. And I am curious. So, what is your nonprofit?
My nonprofit is called Against the Given Odds, and it's for youth and young adults to help children understand their worth and what they are capable of, and show them to not be determined by their past.
I love it. And can you give me the website for that nonprofit as well?
Absolutely, that nonprofit is againstthegivenodds.com. I mean .org. So it's againstthegivenodds.org.
Perfect. And for those listening on your favorite podcast platform, you can find his information in the description. If you're watching on YouTube or on the Empower Me TV network, you can, well, you saw it go across your screen. Madison, thank you so much for coming on and sharing me your story.
And I greatly appreciate it. And I definitely want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on your platform and share my story, because it takes people like you that takes the time to care enough to allow people like me to come share our story to influence the world. So there's a big shout out to you, because what you do, that is what's changing lives.
Thank you so much, Madison. I really appreciate those words. Madison, you have a great day.
Thank you.
If this episode helped you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And to learn more about our nonprofit, Karate Chop Bullying, and the anti-bullying and confidence-building programs we offer youth, visit karatechopbullying.org. For podcast episodes and updates, go to breakingbullying.com or email us at any time at breakbullyinghere@gmail.com. I'm Tim Flynn. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time as we keep breaking the silence on bullying.